Every day we chase, we hold, we cling. We grip the past as if it will return. We clutch our fears as if they protect us. We cling to our possessions as if they define us. But life has its own rhythm, and in the end, everything you refuse to release, death will take from you anyway. So the question is, why wait until the end to learn how to be free? The art of letting go. Letting go is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. It is the courage to trust life more than you trust your fear. It is the wisdom to understand that nothing, not your status, not your possessions, not even your identity is permanent. Happiness does not come from holding tightly. It comes from opening your hand, opening your heart, and allowing life to move through you instead of against you. When you let go of resentment, you rediscover peace. When you let go of comparison, you rediscover worth. When you let go of control, you rediscover possibility. When you let go of fear, you rediscover life. To let go is not to lose. To let go is to return to yourself. The reality we avoid. We bury ourselves in noise, in distraction, in busyness because silence forces us to face the truth. We are temporary. This body temporary. This identity temporary. This story you're writing temporary. But the consciousness behind it, the awareness that observes everything, the inner stillness untouched by chaos, that is eternal. And that part of you can awaken only when you release what is not truly yours. Letting go is not a moment, it is a practice. Let go of the need to be right. Let go of the need to impress. Let go of the pain you rehearse in your mind every night. Let go of the weight you carry for people who refuse to carry themselves. Letting go is choosing freedom every single day. A life lived lightly is a life lived fully. Imagine walking through the world without dragging the chains of the past. Imagine waking up unburdened, meeting each day with clarity and moving with purpose instead of pressure. This is happiness, not pleasure, not distraction, but freedom. The freedom that comes when you no longer cling to what life has already asked you to release. Your time is limited. One day, your breath will be your last. Your hands will finally open, not by choice, but because everything you held will be taken from you. So why not choose now what life will choose for you later? Why not free yourself before the world does it for you? Your call to action. Today, choose one thing you've been holding on to, a fear, a memory, a bitterness, an identity, and decide to release it. Not tomorrow, not someday, today. Make space in your life for peace or clarity, for freedom, for the happiness that comes only when the burden is gone. Let go before death takes it all away. And in that letting go, discover what it truly means to be alive. The art of letting go begins with the recognition that much of what we cling to is not actually ours to keep. From our earliest years, we are taught to accumulate achievements, relationships, objects, opinions, identities, believing that the more we hold, the safer and more complete we become. Yet the opposite is true. The tighter our grip, the more fragile we feel. The more rigidly we define ourselves, the more easily life can shake us. Letting go is the act of loosening the psychological fist that has been clenched for years, sometimes decades, around things that no longer nourish us but still occupy space in our hearts and minds. Letting go requires a deep willingness to examine what we fear most. Often it is not the object or memory itself that we are afraid to release, but the part of ourselves that has become entangled with it. We fear that if we stop clinging to our sorrow, we will lose the story that makes us feel significant. We fear that if we release resentment, we will lose the justification for our pain. We fear that if we let go of control, chaos will overtake us. But these fears are illusions built from years of unchallenged habits. When you begin to loosen these knots one by one, you discover that your identity does not collapse, it expands. Letting go does not strip you of who you are, it reveals who you are beneath the noise. To truly let go, one must learn the difference between attachment and connection. Attachment is possessive. It demands that people, situations, and outcomes conform to your expectations. It clings out of fear. Connection, however, flows freely. It allows you to meet life as it is, not as you wish it to be. When you are connected, you can love deeply without trying to own. You can engage fully without needing to control. Letting go is the shift from attachment toward connection, an inner transition that creates space for peace instead of tension. Many people misunderstand letting go as avoidance or denial. They think it means ignoring emotions or distancing themselves from responsibilities. But letting go is the opposite of escape. It is the courage to look directly at your inner struggles without allowing them to rule you. It means acknowledging your emotions without allowing them to define you. When you let go, you do not erase the past, you release its authority over your present. You do not abandon your dreams, you release the expectation that they must unfold according to your timeline. Letting go is a practice, not a single act. It must be revisited every time old patterns resurface, every time fear whispers its familiar warnings, every time the mind tries to tighten around something temporary. Each day offers a new chance to choose freedom over tension, openness over resistance, presence over clinging. Over time, the mind grows lighter, the world feels less threatening. You begin to experience a quiet strength that does not depend on control but on clarity, acceptance, and inner savings. Alignment. The reality we avoid is the simple, uncomfortable truth that everything in life is impermanent, yet we behave as if we are immortal. We distract ourselves with endless busyness, noise, and obligations because slowing down would mean confronting the fragility of our existence. In quiet moments when the world pauses and our mind becomes still, we can sense the passing nature of everything we hold dear, our bodies, our roles, our ambitions, the people we love, and because this truth unsettles us, we build layers of routines and attachments to avoid feeling it. But the avoidance itself becomes a burden heavier than the truth we fear. When we refuse to acknowledge impermanence, we cling more tightly, suffer more intensely, and fear loss more deeply. Yet life continues moving, changing, evolving, and eventually taking from us anything we refuse to release willingly. Facing this reality is not about becoming morbid or hopeless. It is about awakening to the preciousness of each experience. When you understand deeply that nothing lasts forever, you begin to treat moments differently. You become more attentive, more present, more grateful. You no longer rush through life as if it is an obstacle to overcome. You begin to taste the sweetness of small things, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the softness in someone's voice, the simple grace of breathing. Impermanence does not diminish the beauty of life, it intensifies it. But to experience that intensity, you must first stop running from the truth that everything changes. Avoidance also takes shape through emotional habits. Many people pretend to be strong by suppressing their pain, their fears, their doubts. They believe that ignoring what hurts will make it disappear, but ignored emotions do not dissolve, they accumulate. They turn into tension, into resentment, into invisible walls that separate us from joy. Confronting reality means allowing yourself to feel without being overwhelmed. It means sitting with discomfort long enough to understand what it is trying to teach you instead of numbing it with distractions. When you allow reality to be what it is, you stop wasting energy fighting what cannot be fought. You redirect that energy toward healing and clarity. Another form of avoidance lies in our desire for control. We imagine that with enough planning, effort, and caution, we can prevent loss, predict outcomes, and secure certainty. But life does not obey our scripts. Control is comforting, but it is ultimately an illusion. When things fall apart or take directions we did not choose, we feel betrayed, not because life is unfair, but because our expectations were unrealistic. Recognizing the fluidity of existence frees us from the exhaustion of trying to force everything into place. It teaches us to participate in life rather than dominate it. Accepting the reality we avoid is a gradual shift. It is a softening of the mind, a widening of perspective, a surrender not to helplessness, but to wisdom. When you stop resisting impermanence, you find a deeper sense of stability within yourself, one that does not depend on external conditions but on your ability to meet life, moment by moment, without fear of change. Letting go is not a one-time act, it is a continuous practice, a way of living that requires vigilance, patience, and courage. Every day presents new challenges, new attachments, and new opportunities to tighten the grip of old habits. Our minds are conditioned to cling to comfort, cling to certainty, cling to the familiar, even when it no longer serves us. To let go is to consciously recognize this impulse and respond differently, to choose awareness over reaction. It is not easy because the mind resists change, it resists freedom, preferring the predictable safety of repetition, even when repetition brings suffering. Each moment of letting go is a small rebellion against the inertia of fear, a deliberate act of reclaiming your life from the weight of what is unnecessary or harmful. Letting go begins with awareness. We must first see clearly what we are holding on to and why. Some attachments are obvious, such as grudges, regrets, or possessions that dominate our attention. Others are subtler, like expectations of how people should behave, how life should unfold, or how we define ourselves. Without awareness, we act unconsciously, reacting to old patterns and repeating cycles that keep us imprisoned. Awareness allows us to witness our thoughts, emotions, and impulses without being controlled by them. It allows us to distinguish between what is useful and what is burdensome, between what nurtures our growth and what obstructs it, The practice of letting go also requires courage. It is easy to acknowledge attachments in theory, but to release them in practice is challenging. Letting go often means facing discomfort, uncertainty, and even grief. When we release control, we confront the unknown. When we release open identity-based narratives, we confront emptiness and the possibility of transformation. Courage does not eliminate fear, it allows action in spite of fear. Each act of release strengthens the mind and heart, building resilience and deepening trust in life itself. Consistency is crucial. Letting go is not a single heroic act that solves all problems. It is a daily decision, a series of choices that accumulate into profound inner freedom. Old habits will reappear, sometimes subtly, sometimes blatantly. The mind will slip into judgment, worry, or attachment, and each time we notice, we must gently return to the practice. This persistence is not punishment but discipline, the discipline of freedom. With repetition, letting go becomes more natural, more fluid, and less forced. It begins to shape the way we live, think, and relate to the world around us. The effects of this practice ripple outward. When we let go of the need to control, we create space for life to flow and for creativity to emerge. When we let go of resentment, we open ourselves to forgiveness and connection. When we let go of fear, we access clarity and possibility. Letting go cultivates an inner environment where joy, peace, and clarity can grow without obstruction. It teaches us that freedom is not found in external circumstances, but in the conscious choice to release again and again what no longer serves us. Every act of letting go, no matter how small, is a reclamation of your life. It is a moment of alignment with the truth that happiness does not come from clinging, but from allowing, from trusting, and from being present. It is a practice that transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary, the heavy into the light, the restless into the peaceful, the trapped into the free. A life lived lightly is a life lived fully, and this lightness begins with the conscious release of everything that weighs the heart and clouds the mind. Most people spend their lives carrying invisible loads, burdens of regret, fear, resentment, and expectation that accumulate quietly but exert immense pressure over time. We hold on to what we cannot change, obsess over what might happen, and define our worth by external markers that are fleeting and unreliable. These invisible chains shape the way we move through the world, often without our awareness, creating tension in our bodies, anxiety in our minds, and dissatisfaction in our spirits. Choosing lightness is not about denying responsibility or abandoning ambition. It is about discerning what truly matters and relinquishing everything that is unnecessary or destructive, creating space for vitality, clarity, and presence to flourish. The journey toward a lighter life requires a radical re-evaluation of priorities. It demands the courage to examine which attachments bring joy and which bring suffering. It asks us to question why we cling so tightly to certain outcomes, identities, or possessions. Many people confuse attachment with insecurity, believing that holding on tightly will protect them from loss, disappointment, or uncertainty. Yet this clinging is often the very source of suffering, because life is impermanent and cannot be contained by our desire for control. By releasing the illusion that permanence exists, we step into a way of living that is dynamic, adaptive, and free. A life lived lightly allows us to engage with the world fully, without the constant shadow of fear, without the distraction of unnecessary burdens, and without the mental clutter that prevents deep appreciation of the present moment. Lightness transforms the quality of our relationships. When we release expectations of how others should behave, we create space for authentic connection. When we let go of grudges and resentment, we allow forgiveness and empathy to emerge naturally. When we shed the need to perform or impress, interactions become genuine and unforced, no longer constrained by social pressure or the weight of judgment. This lightness in how we relate to others not only enriches our connections, but also frees them from the strain of our insecurities, allowing love, trust, and understanding to flow naturally. Furthermore, a life lived lightly encourages a deeper relationship with oneself. When we release self-criticism, comparison, and the constant pressure to achieve, we create room for inner peace and self-compassion. We begin to experience our own presence as sufficient, recognizing that our value is intrinsic and not dependent on external validation. In this state, each choice, action, and thought is infused with clarity and intentionality rather than being driven by fear or obligation. Lightness fosters creativity, spontaneity, and joy because the mind is no longer encumbered by the unnecessary weight of anxiety, regret, or attachment. Living lightly also deepens our engagement with life's experiences. When we shed the excess that distracts and constrains us, we become fully present to each moment, the taste of food, the laughter of a friend, the rhythm of our breath, the subtle beauty in nature. Each moment gains intensity and richness because nothing is obstructing our awareness. Lightness is not emptiness, it is fullness in its purest form. It is the ability to move through the world unburdened, to meet challenges with equanimity, to embrace joy without fear of losing it, and to navigate sorrow without being crushed by it. Through the consistent practice of letting go, life becomes less about surviving underweight and more about thriving in freedom. We discover that the lighter we live, the more capable we are of appreciating life's beauty, responding to its challenges with clarity, and participating fully in the present, without distraction or fear. This lightness is a conscious choice, a commitment to prioritize what nourishes the soul over what burdens it, to release what restricts growth, and to embrace life with openness, curiosity, and courage. Your time is limited. Yet so many of us live as if it is endless, postponing the things that matter most, clinging to trivial concerns, and deferring joy until some future moment that may never come. Every day we make countless choices about how we spend our energy, attention, and emotion, yet few of us stop to consider the finite nature of our existence. This unawareness is what allows fear, resentment, and attachment to grow unchecked, because we assume there will always be more time to untangle ourselves from them. But the truth is that every breath is borrowed, every heartbeat a reminder that life moves forward with or without our consent, and every opportunity ignored is an opportunity lost forever. Realizing the brevity of life is not meant to provoke despair, but to awaken urgency, the urgency to live consciously, to prioritize what matters, and to release what does not. Understanding the limits of our time brings clarity to our decisions. It forces us to examine what we have been holding on to and why, and whether those attachments are truly worth the energy they consume. Many people invest years in grievances, anxieties, and ambitions that do not align with their deepest values, thinking that effort alone will guarantee satisfaction or security. Yet no amount of planning or striving can extend the moments we are given. The awareness of mortality sharpens our perception, revealing the futility of clinging to the impermanent. It reminds us that the house, the title, the recognition, or even the opinions of others are transient, and that freedom, peace, and fulfillment come not from accumulation, but from conscious choice, mindful presence, and intentional release. Recognizing that time is limited also shifts our relationship with fear. Fear often keeps us holding on to things we do not need, or prevents us from pursuing what we truly desire. Fear convinces us to postpone change, to cling to comfort, and to resist growth. Yet when we confront the truth that our time is not infinite, fear loses some of its power. The urgency of life demands action, courage, and clarity. It reminds us that postponement is a luxury we do not possess, and that the most profound transformations happen not when we are ready, but when we choose to act despite uncertainty. The awareness of limited time also amplifies gratitude and presence. When we understand that every moment is unique and unrepeatable, mundane experiences become rich with significance. Conversations with loved ones, quiet moments of reflection, acts of creativity, or even the simple act of breathing become precious. This awareness cultivates a deep appreciation for life as it is, instead of life as we imagine it should be. By embracing the reality of impermanence, we learn to savor experiences fully, to invest in relationships authentically, and to prioritize actions that align with our true purpose, rather than distractions or societal expectations. Finally, understanding our temporal limits encourages the practice of deliberate letting go. Every attachment, resentment, and expectation we carry takes time from the present, time that could be spent in freedom, joy, and clarity. By consciously releasing what does not serve us, we reclaim the most valuable resource we have, our life. We begin to live intentionally, understanding that happiness and peace are not rewards for the future but possibilities to be accessed in the here and now, in the way we choose to engage with each passing moment, knowing that these moments are numbered. Every act of letting go, no matter how small, is a reclamation of your life, a conscious choice to shift from reaction to awareness, from burden to freedom. Often we underestimate the cumulative power of these small releases, thinking that only grand gestures or dramatic decisions can create transformation. Yet the truth is that liberation is built in the everyday moments, the quiet surrender of a resentment you have been nursing, the conscious choice to shift from reaction to awareness, from burden to freedom. Often we underestimate the cumulative power of these small releases, thinking that only grand gestures or dramatic decisions can create transformation. Yet the truth is that liberation is built in the everyday moments, the quiet surrender of a resentment you have been nursing, the conscious release of an expectation you have been forcing onto others, the decision to no longer ruminate over a regret that has no power over your present. Each act of letting go is a subtle yet profound realignment with the rhythm of life, a decision to step out of the patterns that keep us trapped and to inhabit the present with clarity and courage. These small acts are the building blocks of a life lived consciously, where joy, peace, and authenticity are not occasional gifts but the natural state of being. Letting go is fundamentally an act of trust, trust in life, trust in yourself, and trust in the unseen flow that moves through engagement. Engagement comes to nature. All things, to release attachment to outcomes, people, or identities requires confidence that what is truly yours cannot be taken, that your essence, your awareness, and your capacity for love and presence are not dependent on external circumstances. This trust is cultivated through repeated practice, through observing that life continues to move, that opportunities arise in new forms, and that when you release, you are not left empty but freed. It is a paradox. By surrendering control, you gain power. By loosening the grip, you discover strength. By giving up resistance, you encounter resilience. Each small release teaches you that life's abundance is not in accumulation or possession, but in alignment with what is, in flow rather than struggle. The power of letting go also lies in its capacity to transform perception. Clinging distorts reality, magnifies fear, and constricts experience. When we release, even in small increments, we expand our awareness and reclaim clarity. A mind weighed down by grudges cannot see beauty, cannot experience joy fully, and cannot respond with discernment. A heart burdened by expectation cannot open fully to connection, cannot experience love in its pure form, and cannot navigate change with ease. Each intentional act of release gradually lightens the mind and heart, sharpening perception and deepening empathy. We begin to notice subtleties we once overlooked: the quiet kindness of strangers, the fleeting brilliance of a sunset, the gentle wisdom in moments of silence. Life becomes more vivid because we are no longer obstructed by the clutter we carry. Furthermore, small acts of letting go reinforce the understanding that freedom is not granted but chosen. It is not an external gift or a consequence of circumstance, but an internal decision repeated over and over, moment by moment. Each choice to release a fear, a grievance, or a need for control strengthens the capacity to act consciously in future moments, creating a feedback, a loop of liberation. This iterative process builds resilience, fortifies character, and cultivates an inner landscape where peace is accessible, regardless of external conditions. Over time, what begins as small, deliberate acts of surrender coalesces into a profound transformation, a life no longer dictated by attachment, fear, or expectation, but guided by presence, clarity, and intentionality. Every act of letting go becomes a seed that grows quietly but steadily, reshaping the inner terrain of the mind and heart, opening space for authenticity, love, and joy to flourish, and reinforcing the understanding that the true wealth of life is found not in what we cling to, but in what we consciously release.